Hey, I'm Lorna from Thread and Yarn. If you're new to this channel, this is going to be a space where I talk about sewing and knitting, generally making your own clothes. I did a bit of natural dyeing as well, so yeah, it'll be all of those lovely cozy things. It was also lovely to meet some of you through my last video, which was about my favourite me-mades, a bit of an intro to Thread and Yarn, and trying to make things that suit me and my life and that all go together as part of a capsule wardrobe. So if you missed that video, I'll pop a link to it within this video somehow. I'm figuring that out, but hopefully it'll be obvious. So check it out. I have been told that it is a little on the quiet side, so I'm really sorry about that. I'm just getting started, but I'm really excited to make some good quality fun videos for you. So I've tried to boost the volume on this one up. I'm going to get a microphone, so hopefully that will help. But in the meantime, hopefully you can hear this video. Please let me know if not. I'm going to try and get some good captions sorted as well so that it's accessible to everyone. So this video is going to be about top stitching and how to get it looking nice and neat and avoid the sort of stress that comes with battling with your machine and a thread that looks like it's all over the place or tying itself in knots. Top stitching is definitely something that certainly I have struggled with a lot since learning how to make my own clothes. And I thought it'd be a really useful one just to share some of my tips. They work for me. I really hope they work for you too, just to make sewing a bit more fun and easy, really. So I've had my fair share of battles with top stitching, but I finally got to a point where I'm really happy with it. 99% of the times it goes well now, and I've gotten to the point where I'm happy to do really nice contrasting top stitching. So I'll show you these Harleen dungarees that I made recently. They are a blue railroad denim, and I've chosen an orange top stitch to go with them. I really like having a contrast there. Did mess up my eyes a little bit, all these tiny stripes and doing top stitching. But I think it looks really good. So my first tip is going to be to make sure you practice on scrap fabric first. I have just gone straight in there before thinking I can do top stitching now, but actually it can vary lots based on your fabric. And when you do your practice bit, your sample, make sure you try to replicate the fabric thickness that you're going to have when you make your garment. So if you're sewing pockets on jeans, maybe practice folding the fabric so it's sort of 2 or 3 times thicker, maybe with a bit of interfacing if you're practicing for a button placket. So try and make sure that you know the thickness that your fabric's going to be, because that will affect your stitching. Next up, prep your fabric. So I have been guilty of wanting to rush to finish projects and have skipped basic steps like this, but making sure, especially when you're jean making, really pressing all those seams when the pattern tells you to before you go on to the top stitching, then you get this really nice crisp seam that you're not going to have any fabric sort of ridging or bunching over, so you've got that nice flat surface to work on. Something I found that really helps me as well is not trying to sew top stitching with a regular sewing needle. Firstly, the eyelet is too small, the needle's not really strong enough, it really struggles to drag it up and down, and if it does, it doesn't do it at a rate that matches the bobbin thread, and you'll end up with little knots underneath or the machine just freaking out. So something that really helped me was buying real top stitch needles. So you can see those. Actual top stitching needles make a massive difference to the neatness. And on that topic, you can buy specifically designed top stitching thread. So this is the Gutermann thread, and it's got a green top as opposed to the yellow tops of their regular sew all thread. So next up is to change your tension. I'm going to show you a sample of whether or not your tension needs to go up or down, but I just mean here. It might be in a different place on your machine, but it's here for me. Just need to adjust the tension of the top stitch. So lower numbers here, 0 and 1, they're looser, and the higher you turn it, mine can go up to 9, I think that's quite common, the tighter the top stitch is relative to the bobbin thread. Here's a top stitch sample that I wanted to show you to explain some of the tension and problems you might be having and how to fix them. So if we have a look at this top one here, you can see the bobbin thread is coming through. It looks quite flat, and this means your stitch is too tight. I did that on about an 8 or a 9. So if it looks like that, you need to turn your tension down. If we skip here to the bottom one, it looks all right, the stitching, maybe a little bit loose and bumpy, but if we turn it over, you can see we've got top stitching coming through to the bobbin side in little loops. That means our top stitch is too loose, so I did that on about a 0 or a 1. If it looks like that, you need to turn your tension up a little bit. That's the sort of thing that can cause to make knots behind the back and get your needle stuck and jam your machine, so we don't want that. If we look at these middle two, especially this middle one, we don't really have any top stitching coming through. We've got nice even bobbin lines, and the stitching is pretty balanced in the middle. So that's what we're wanting it to look like. Nice even stitches, not too bumpy on the top, not too flat, no bobbin thread coming through. I did that on about a 3 or a 4, but it may be different for your machine. So that's how to identify problems with your tension and whether to turn them up or down. I feel like sometimes I need to just push on with sewing. I'm going to end up like this, working for 8 hours a day on my machine, and then I'm like, I should probably step back and have a cup of tea or something, come back to it, have another go, take a break. So if you have a look here, this stitch length is slightly longer than a regular stitching thread stitch, so I've set it to about a 3.5. I normally sew my seams on about a 2.5, maybe up to a 3 mil, but with top stitching you're going to want to lengthen that stitch, so I recommend about a 3.5. Play around, see what works for you, but having shorter, tinier stitches with that thick thread gives you more opportunities for problems, really, and it ends up looking more even and less wavy sort of diagonal lines if you increase your stitch length to about 3.5 or above. So for me, that's this one here, so I just turn that up. Depends if you've got a digital machine or a manual one, but either way, look for something like this and increase that stitch length to higher, to about 3.5. Look at the presser foot all the time. Don't look at your needle bobbing up and down, because it is so hard to focus on staying a straight line when you're looking at something that's moving around all the time. If you look at my presser foot, I make sure I can just see like a mil of stitching either on this side of the bit where my seam is, and if I just focus on that straight line, then I can make it really, really neat. And that's just something that's not moving. It should always stay the same width that I can see. That really helps. Some presser foots will have marks on them and it might be easier, or you can move your needle over a little bit and then sew in the gap still and keep that in line, also with that it lining up with your seam. It's easier when you move to do your second line. Now this is a wider foot, to be fair. This is a 3/8 sort of seam allowance in this foot, but my old foot was just a quarter inch. So I would always make sure that the edge of my presser foot, that's quite a common size presser foot, would line up with the seam edge, and then my second seam would be consistent the whole way along. Now here I've got a line which is a quarter inch mark on my presser foot. Now I make sure that lines up either with my edge stitch or with the seam, whichever I fancy, whether or not I want a wider top stitch design. So yeah, my advice would be always look at the thing that is consistent and not look at the thing that's moving around. Pick a point, focus on it, and that'll help you sew a straight line. So those are my top stitching tips. I really hope they're helpful to you. Let me know what you think in the comments. If there's anything else that I've missed that you think is really useful, or you tried any of these things, they didn't work, I'm not an expert, but I'm happy to try and help. All our machines are different, so my tension might work for me, you might need to go up or down, things like that. But yeah, I really hope it helps. Just keep practicing, I guess, and yeah, hopefully top stitching joy will come. If you like this video, I'd really like it if you subscribe to my channel for more sewing, knitting, hopefully some natural dyeing stuff coming up. It's generally just a space where I'm talking about making my own clothes and the joy it brings, and sometimes the things I need to overcome to actually have a fun experience, but that's all part of it, isn't it? So yeah, I'd love to meet more of you. So please subscribe, like this video if you enjoyed it, and yeah, look out for more soon.